a daughter who gave everything to her mother, only to be thrown out like trash when someone richer came along. But when a disabled woman in a wheelchair witnessed the cruelty, nobody knew she was actually a billionaire in disguise, testing their hearts. What happened next shocked everyone. Before we dive into this incredible story of betrayal and karma, hit that like button and subscribe, because you won't believe how this ends. Maya Rodriguez had always been the kind of daughter every mother dreams of having. At 25 years old, she worked 2 jobs to help her mother Linda pay the bills, cooked dinner every night, and never complained about the sacrifices she made. Their small house in the suburbs wasn't much, but it was home, and Maya had poured her heart into making it comfortable for the woman who raised her alone after her father passed away. But everything changed the day Linda met Richard Thornton at a charity gala where she volunteered. Richard was a businessman with expensive suits and a silver tongue that could charm anyone. He swept Linda off her feet with fancy dinners and promises of a better life. Within 3 months, they were engaged, and Richard moved into their home with his 23-year-old daughter, Vanessa. From the moment Vanessa walked through the door, dragging designer luggage and wearing sunglasses indoors, Maya knew their peaceful life was over. Vanessa looked at their modest home with barely concealed disgust, wrinkling her nose at the outdated furniture and simple decor. She made comments about everything, from the thread count of the towels to the brand of coffee in the cupboard. At first, Maya tried to be welcoming. She offered to help Vanessa settle in, showed her around the neighborhood, even gave up her private bathroom so Vanessa wouldn't have to share the main one. But Vanessa responded to every kindness with cold indifference or outright rudeness. She would leave her clothes everywhere for Maya to pick up, blast music late at night, and constantly complain to her father about having to live in such a cramped, pathetic place. What hurt Maya most wasn't Vanessa's behavior, it was watching her mother change. Linda, who had once called Maya her best friend and her greatest blessing, began to distance herself. She started comparing them at dinner, making comments about how Vanessa dressed so elegantly or how she'd been to Europe 3 times. When Maya tried to talk about her day at work, Linda would cut her off to listen to Vanessa's shopping adventures. The breaking point came on a cold Tuesday evening. Maya had just returned from her shift at the hospital where she worked as a nurse's aide, exhausted and looking forward to the leftover pasta in the fridge. Instead, she found Vanessa throwing a tantrum in the living room, Richard trying to calm her down, and her mother wringing her hands nervously. Vanessa was screaming about Maya's bedroom. She wanted it because it had better lighting and a bigger closet. She didn't care that Maya had lived in that room since she was 10 years old, that every corner held memories of her childhood, that her father had painted those walls the summer before he died. Richard looked at Linda with calculating eyes and said the words that would shatter Maya's world. "Linda, sweetheart, maybe it's time Maya found her own place. She's 25 after all. Young people need independence, and Vanessa's not used to sharing such tight spaces." Maya waited for her mother to defend her, to tell Richard that this was Maya's home and she wasn't going anywhere. But Linda avoided her daughter's eyes. The silence stretched on for what felt like hours but was probably only seconds. Then Linda spoke, and her words cut deeper than any knife. "Richard's right, Maya. You're old enough to be on your own. Vanessa is going to be my stepdaughter, and we need to make her comfortable. It's time you moved out." Maya felt the floor disappear beneath her feet. She looked at her mother, searching for any sign of the woman who used to braid her hair and tell her she was loved unconditionally. But that woman was gone, replaced by someone Maya didn't recognize. Through tears, Maya reminded Linda of everything she'd done. The double shifts she'd worked to pay the mortgage when Linda lost her job. The college fund she'd sacrificed so they could keep the house. The countless nights she'd stayed up taking care of Linda when she was sick. But Linda's face remained hard, her decision made. "Vanessa is my future now," Linda said coldly. "You're grown, you can take care of yourself." 2 days later, Maya stood on the front lawn with her entire life packed into 4 suitcases and 3 boxes. She had nowhere to go. Her friends' apartments were full, and she couldn't afford a deposit on her own place with her current savings. She sat on the largest suitcase, tears streaming down her face, trying to figure out her next move. That's when she heard the soft sound of wheelchair wheels on the sidewalk. Maya looked up to see an older black woman rolling toward her in a worn wheelchair. The woman appeared to be in her late 50s, with graying hair pulled back in a simple ponytail and clothes that had seen better days. She moved slowly, seeming to struggle with the chair's mechanism. "Excuse me, sweetheart," the woman said with a gentle voice. "I'm a bit turned around. Could you help me with directions to the community center?" Maya wiped her eyes and stood up immediately, despite her own crisis. She pulled out her phone to check the map, giving the woman clear directions and even offering to walk her part of the way. The woman introduced herself as Catherine and thanked Maya warmly for her kindness. Before Catherine could roll away, the front door burst open. Vanessa strutted out, phone in hand, and stopped short when she saw Catherine. Her face twisted with disgust. "Oh my God, seriously," Vanessa said loudly. "This neighborhood is going downhill. Now we have beggars rolling up to the house." Linda appeared behind her, and instead of scolding Vanessa for her cruelty, she nodded in agreement. "You need to move along," Linda said to Catherine dismissively. "We don't give handouts here." Maya felt anger rise in her chest, temporarily overpowering her grief. "Mom, she's not asking for anything, she's just lost, and you don't talk to people like that." Linda glared at her daughter. "Don't tell me how to talk. This is my property, and I don't want random people loitering, especially not—" She paused, but the implication hung in the air. Catherine remained calm, observing the scene with eyes that seemed to see everything. She started to roll away when her purse suddenly slipped from her lap, spilling its contents across the sidewalk. Bills scattered in the breeze, along with cards and personal items. Vanessa's eyes lit up like a slot machine hitting jackpot. She immediately lunged forward, grabbing at the money. "Finders keepers," she announced with a laugh. Linda didn't stop her. In fact, she bent down to help Vanessa collect the cash, the two of them treating it like a game while Catherine watched from her wheelchair, unable to reach the scattered items. Maya couldn't believe what she was seeing. She rushed forward, pushing past Vanessa to gather Catherine's belongings. She carefully collected every bill, every card, every personal item, and placed them back in Catherine's purse with gentle hands. "I'm so sorry," Maya said to Catherine, her voice breaking. "You shouldn't have been treated this way." Catherine looked at Maya with an expression that was hard to read. "You have a kind heart, child. In a world where people are cruel, especially to those they see as beneath them, kindness is revolutionary." Vanessa rolled her eyes. "Whatever. She's probably faking being disabled anyway. These people always are." Catherine then asked for a glass of water, mentioning she'd been out in the heat for hours. Vanessa laughed outright. "Get your own water. I'm not a maid." Without hesitation, Maya grabbed her own water bottle from her bag and handed it to Catherine. It was the only water she had, and she didn't know when she'd be able to afford to buy more, but she couldn't stand by and watch someone suffer. As Catherine drank, she asked Maya a simple question. "Where will you go, sweetheart? I couldn't help but notice your belongings packed up." Maya's composure finally cracked. She explained everything through tears, how her mother had chosen strangers over her own daughter, how she had nowhere to go, how she felt completely alone in the world. Catherine listened to every word, her eyes growing sharper with each detail. After Maya finished talking, Catherine thanked her for the water and the kindness. She rolled away slowly, leaving Maya sitting on her suitcases, feeling more hopeless than ever. Vanessa and Linda went back inside, already laughing about something on Vanessa's phone, as if Maya had never existed. What none of them saw was Catherine pulling out her phone 3 blocks away. She made a call, and her entire demeanor changed. Her voice became firm and authoritative, nothing like the frail woman she'd appeared to be moments before. "Send the car," she said simply, "and call my attorney. I've found exactly what I was looking for, both the good and the bad." Within minutes, a black Mercedes pulled up beside Catherine. A young man in a professional suit stepped out and helped her from the wheelchair. To anyone watching, it would have been shocking to see Catherine stand up perfectly steady on her own 2 feet and fold the wheelchair herself before placing it in the trunk. Catherine Moore wasn't disabled at all. She was the founder and CEO of Moore Legacy Foundation, a multi-billion-dollar organization dedicated to disability rights and social justice. She was also one of the wealthiest Black women in America, with a net worth that could buy Maya's entire neighborhood 10 times over. But Catherine's wealth came with a mission. Several times a year, she went undercover in different communities, testing people's true character. She would pose as someone society typically overlooked, homeless, disabled, elderly, to see who would show kindness when there was nothing to gain, and who would reveal their cruelty when they thought no one important was watching. And in Maya, Linda, and Vanessa, she had found the perfect case study of human nature at its best and worst. Catherine returned to her office downtown and immediately set her team to work. She had investigators look into Richard Thornton's finances, and what they found was explosive. Richard was drowning in debt from failed business ventures and gambling losses. His entire relationship with Linda was a scam. He targeted her specifically because she owned her house outright, a modest property but still valuable. His plan was to convince Linda to add Vanessa to the deed, then force Linda out once they had legal claim to the property. He'd done it before to 2 other women. Armed with this information and the recordings from her hidden camera, Catherine made her move. She showed up at the hospital where Maya was doing her shift, having slept in her car for 3 nights because she still had nowhere else to go. When Maya was called to the administrative office, she feared she was being fired for looking disheveled. Instead, she found Catherine sitting there in an elegant business suit, looking nothing like the woman in the wheelchair. Maya's confusion was evident. Catherine smiled warmly and revealed everything: who she really was, why she'd been in that wheelchair, what she'd witnessed that day. She told Maya that in her 20 years of doing these undercover tests, she'd rarely met someone who showed such pure kindness while experiencing such personal pain. "Maya," Catherine said, sliding a folder across the desk, "I want to offer you a position as Community Outreach Director at my foundation. The salary is $120,000 a year with full benefits, and I'm including a $50,000 signing bonus. I'm also providing a furnished apartment rent-free for your first year." Maya stared at the contract, unable to process what was happening. This couldn't be real. Things like this didn't happen to people like her. But Catherine's warm hand covered hers, grounding her in the moment. "I invest in character," Catherine said firmly. "And yours is worth more than gold. The world needs more people like you in positions where they can make a difference." Maya signed the contract with shaking hands, tears of joy replacing the tears of sorrow she'd cried for days. Her life was about to change in ways she never imagined. But Catherine wasn't finished. She still had unfinished business with Linda and Vanessa. 3 months later, Maya returned to her childhood home one final time to collect a few remaining personal items her mother had boxed up. She pulled up in a car provided by the foundation, dressed in professional clothes, radiating confidence she'd never known she possessed. Linda and Vanessa were in the front yard when she arrived. Their jaws dropped at Maya's transformation, but they quickly recovered with their trademark cruelty. Vanessa sneered and asked if Maya had found herself a sugar daddy. Linda's eyes were cold and judgmental. Before Maya could respond, Catherine's Mercedes pulled up behind her car. Catherine stepped out, looking every inch the powerful executive she was, with her attorney and assistant flanking her sides. Linda and Vanessa didn't recognize her at first. Why would they? They'd never really looked at the woman in the wheelchair. She'd been invisible to them, less than human in their eyes. Catherine introduced herself formally, then waited a beat before adding, "Though we've met before, on this very lawn in fact, when you stole from my purse and refused me water." The color drained from Linda's face. Vanessa's mouth opened and closed like a fish gasping for air. They remembered now, and they realized with growing horror exactly what they'd done. Catherine didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. She simply presented the evidence, video footage from her hidden camera showing their cruelty, their theft, their callous dismissal of human dignity. She also presented the findings about Richard's fraud scheme, showing Linda documented proof that she was about to lose everything. Linda's world collapsed in that moment. Richard had already been arrested that morning based on Catherine's evidence. The house she'd nearly signed over was still hers, but barely. And her daughter, the one she'd betrayed, stood before her as living proof of the terrible choice she'd made. Vanessa tried to run, to claim she'd known nothing about her father's schemes, but Catherine's investigators had uncovered texts between Vanessa and Richard discussing the scam. She'd been in on it from the beginning, playing the spoiled princess while plotting to steal Linda's home. Catherine gave Linda a choice. She could face public exposure for her cruelty, or she could accept a different kind of justice. Catherine offered her a position, unpaid, working at the Foundation's community center, serving the very people she'd looked down upon. Linda would spend the next year learning what it meant to value character over status, kindness over comfort. Linda looked at Maya, finally seeing her daughter clearly for the first time in months. She begged for forgiveness, but Maya stood firm. "I forgive you, Mom," Maya said quietly. "But forgiveness doesn't erase consequences. You chose wealth over love. Now you'll learn which one actually matters." 6 months passed like seasons changing. Maya flourished in her new role at the Foundation, helping hundreds of families find resources and support. She discovered a passion for advocacy she never knew she had, and Catherine became the mentor and mother figure she'd always needed. Linda showed up every day at the community center, cleaning floors, serving meals, listening to the stories of people she'd once dismissed. Slowly, painfully, she began to change. Real change, not the fake kind people perform for forgiveness. She started to understand that human worth isn't measured in bank accounts or social status. On a crisp autumn afternoon, Maya visited the community center to check on a new program. She found her mother sitting with an elderly homeless man, listening intently to his story about losing his family. Linda's eyes were wet with genuine tears, her hand holding his with real compassion. Their eyes met across the room. Maya nodded slightly, and Linda nodded back. It wasn't forgiveness yet, not completely. But it was a beginning, a small bridge being built over the chasm that had opened between them. Later that evening, Maya sat in Catherine's office overlooking the city. They were planning a new initiative to help young people aging out of foster care, something close to Maya's heart. "You know," Catherine said, looking out at the lights below, "I've learned something in all my years of testing people. True wealth isn't what you have. It's who you are when no one is watching. It's how you treat the person who can do nothing for you." Maya smiled, thinking about the woman in the wheelchair who'd changed her life. "And I've learned that real family isn't about blood. It's about who shows up, who stays, who values you for who you are, not what you can provide." Catherine raised her coffee cup in a toast. "To character," she said. "To character," Maya echoed. Outside, the city lights twinkled like stars, and somewhere in that vast landscape, thousands of people made choices every day, choices about kindness or cruelty, compassion or indifference. And sometimes, just sometimes, the person you dismiss as unimportant turns out to be an angel in disguise, testing whether you're worthy of the blessings you're about to receive. If this story touched your heart, hit that like button and share it with someone who needs to remember that kindness always comes back around. Subscribe and turn on notifications because we bring you stories about real karma, justice, and the power of treating every human being with dignity. Drop a comment below and tell us, would you have helped Catherine that day? Let's discuss what real character means. Remember, the next person you dismiss might just be the one who could change your life forever. Choose kindness, choose character, choose to be like Maya.